Yo, step into the room, we bringing that vibe, highlighting kings and queens who thrive and survive. From the corner of the block, making dreams come true. We elevate the voices, yes, you know how we do. Chris Sia got the wisdom, laying down the facts. Chris Jr. with the passion, pushing us to relax. Devin brings the fire, always keeping it fresh. Together we're a force, rising up from the rest.
Above average black man, we breaking the mold. Sharing love, sharing stories, watch the truth unfold. Championing success in every single way. We uplift the community, come join us today.
Each episode a journey through laughter and tears, celebrating achievements, confronting our fears. We interview the dreamers.
Second verse? Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Christopher Fender.
Chris Jr., as always, here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community. Devin Pender here to remind you guys to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment.
Devin, I need you to speak up because that was one of the criticisms somebody had.
You could have told me that before.
Explain to me. Hey, man,
Yeah, make sure
you
you
just
say
need to speak up. Yeah. I think tell people like, yo, Young is something, man. You know, he when he speaks, he's very insightful, but he don't,
Say it loud.
They speak to you, man. So anyway, welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. I'm gonna let my son introduce the show. He sent me an interesting video today. I thought was pretty. Was it yesterday? Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, or a few
I
days
just
ago.
kept looking at it. It was funny to me. Not funny how you know what I mean. So I just kept looking at it.
I mean, because it's like one of those topics that seems like it's ongoing and
It won't die.
it won't die, and like it never fails to like cease to amaze me that you hear something more and more outlandish week after week. So first we're talking about relationships and this silly kind of back and forth that I feel like has just intensified between men and women. Specifically, I know this video that my dad is referencing that I sent him. Like it was just the idea behind just kind of men equal bad, and then women kind of automatically get this pass of being just good and pure.
That was funny.
And it almost kind of strips down the idea, or strips away for real. Just like people, either way, men or women. I mean, because I don't think people can see it, so I don't know how.
You can hear when you hear it. You hear it.
Maybe, but it's just
When you hear it. Let me play a snippet of it.
it's kind of I wish people
On
could see it.
average, tend to have a cynical expectation of men. It's this posture of you have to prove to me that you're good enough, while simultaneously expecting that he assumes that you are good enough. Most women aren't coming to this proverbial table acknowledging their faults and saying, this is what I need to work on.
You're not.
Most are coming saying that this is what you need to work on. So even when a woman is encountered with a man who was raised by both parents, there's still an assumption that he has some emotional shortcoming, or he doesn't express himself properly. Some women talk to men from a place of emotional or intellectual superiority, and it sets that precedent, and that's what makes him defensive, because now he feels like, oh, what be challenging? You're challenging me, and you're expecting the worst out of me. If men are being asked to have grace for women, do our due diligence to understand all the intricacies of what the woman has been through, even her natural cycles and the whole nine, and how that affects her disposition. There needs to be that work done from the female delegation, from men. I'm hearing from men that that's not the case. Women are assuming that they've already done the work. Women on average.
So this is not my video. This is not this video. I want to say this.
Women on average.
My disclaimer right now is not my video. It's we need to talk. That two videos is we need to talk, man. So, but if he's listening or he sees it, we didn't steal your video, man. We using it as a talking.
I'm sure he's
as a reference.
Shout out to him.
Yeah, you got to shout out, man.
I actually been coming across a few of his videos recently, and I just love how he intelligently talks about this, and he doesn't place any blame anywhere or any way. He just kind of, I think, speaks from a place of like just kind of highlighting, like, yes, men and women have their differences, and we each have our issues, but he also a little bit is standing up for men in a way it's funny we talked about how Kevin Samuels was like kind of the guy who I feel like started all of this, like this conversation that certainly needed to be had, like open dialogue. But we're seeing some things where it's just a mindset or a mentality out here that I think it's hard to grow, and it's unbalanced in so many ways because. To his point, like he was saying, some people come to the table thinking that they already done, like they had completed prize or package, and like that there's no room or space for them to grow. And then even more so, specifically, like I hate to say it, sometimes women come out with on their emotional high horse. You know what I mean? Thinking that like, yo, I'm emotionally here. I'm a better communicator here because I feel these things and I talk this way. And just because you have emotions or because you do talk doesn't make you a good communicator.
What do you think, Doug? And I gotta say the disclaimer, Facebook won't play unless you say I own the rights to this thing. But anyway, go ahead.
It definitely is interesting. I kind of do see where Christian's coming from, especially like I feel like this happened within the last 15 years with the whole toxic masculinity thing. And now we're just pretty much every dude, something wrong with him, or he has to work on something, but the woman comes in and she's perfect. All because she took, a therapy session 2 years ago, and now she knows everything.
He's digging deep with therapy.
No, because there's a lot of people like that. They be like, I'm healed. I went to therapy. Like, what?
You went to therapy 5 years ago.
You in court man.
He was
court mandated.
That's even worse. That's even worse. But I think, okay, so what I found interesting about the video was, and you're right, you had to see the faces of the ladies when we were talking. That was kind of interesting because it was almost like, okay, you're making a point, but like I don't 100% believe in it. And it's funny because you just see
that just reminded me of another video I saw.
It was like,
oh my god!
Like I'm on the show.
I can see
Right. It's like I'm on the there you go. That's exactly. I'm on the show with you, so I kind of agree with you. I knew the topic beforehand, but I think maybe I'm an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the old saying, "Hurt people hurt people."
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, the second part of this people don't know is, hurt people have a tendency not to see that they're hurt.
That's very true.
They don't pay attention to it that I'm operating out of a place where I'm wounded, my emotions are wrong. It's like, what's wrong with you? Sometimes what's wrong with you for not putting up with my stuff? When you crack me up, man. So, but how did we get here though? And you mentioned the toxic relationship, but it seems so simple. It seems so simple that, when you talking down to somebody, when you constantly criticizing somebody, you know what I mean? When something somebody does, you find everything wrong with this man. Nobody's perfect.
I think the feminist movement took this turn where it went from empowering women to just kind of putting men down. I think it just kind of took this flip of like where
that's how you do it.
Yeah, like
I gotta step on this.
Right, I gotta put these people down in order for me to step up. And I think it's like going so far in this direction where like now some people just look at where there's nowhere for them to grow. You know what I mean? Like they're just these perfect beings that exist with these terrible individuals or people over here. And I it's funny, it's unfortunate because it's happening to our kids. Like to little boys. Like they're almost being taught that like, yo, you guys are gonna grow up to just be these evil individuals. And there's nothing I went to a stand-up show and this woman legit was on stage. That was part of her. She was talking about her friends were pregnant, and she was like, "Unfortunately, they're all boys."
Well, but
what?
But see, this is what happens a lot of times. People get upset when you say it. Let me paraphrase it by saying, "There's always been single family homes, so this is not a new thing."
Mm-hmm.
The difference now is you have, and I have to say this tactfully, you have a bunch of young ladies who raise these single family homes, and they're putting too much pressure on these kids now. You act just like your father. You look just like your father.
That's my little
your father's no good, so you're not going to be any good. They hear this, man. Or they sitting there and little Johnny's sitting there and they talk to their girlfriends. All men are this, all men are that, all men are this, all men, and you hear it repetitively. And I hear it, sometimes when you talking to a parent and a single parent, and you can tell in the voice, that pretty much, man, they put me in the same category. You ain't listening to me. You already on his side. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm just listening. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best solution here.
It's insane.
But it's almost like to me, and this is a stretch, so anybody hearing this, but to me it reminds me of slavery when they took and pitted the light skinned Negro against the dark skinned Negro. So now it's almost like I
It's
keep the
men
woman
versus
fighting.
women.
I'm keep throwing bones to this side because I know how they're going to react emotionally, and I keep putting negative stereotypes on this side, because I know if the women don't agree, society's going to jump in and say, yeah, this is what black men do.
That's so interesting, and that you kind of highlighted that and said that because I thought this. I feel like I said this, but like haven't really kind of dove into it as much. But it's just this idea of like how they say that black women are like the most feared or like least respected. And,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the black man. Without the doubt to me, it's the black man.
Oh yeah.
Like we are, like everybody's taught to hate us from birth on. Every race, every gender is taught to be scared of and fearful of the black man. Like
it's even worse sometimes. Within our race, everybody's taught to compete against us. That everything's a competition. I cannot let Chris be better than me. It's funny because we were talking about Kevin Samuels, and the video is two parts of the video that stood out to me when we were watching. Remember, we were binge watching. We were down there. It was the one where the lady had like 6 kids, and he bought his kid McDonald's, and she went off on. This is what I'm saying. He bought his son McDonald's. He didn't buy McDonald's for the other 5 kids. And she got bent out of shape. And then the whole thing was she felt that was his obligation.
To buster for her.
Yeah, remember that? She was going off because how you gonna come in? And he said, well, because my son called me and said I was home. What are you doing with the child support? That was crazy. That was her expectation. That she thought, that because you bring
his kid can't eat because
she threw it away. Remember she threw it out the street. She threw it in the middle of the street, so she made her kid, so and then she began to proceed talking about how bad he was, how bad a man he was because of this, because of that, ripping him up and down, but you got 6 kids by 6 different dudes. Where do your responsibility? And if he was
your judgment, your character,
said, no, but the key line that stood out, you just like the other babies daddy. Well, that means you're picking the wrong dude. Seriously, you don't take no responsibility. You're picking the wrong dude. No, they weren't. She was just saying his characteristics was like so she was trying to blame him for that.
Yeah.
Like it's y'all fault. It's the 6 of y'all fault. It ain't my fault.
That's actually a point that I think gets kind of in that video. He said it in a roundabout way. It's like even the idea of like
he's sensationalized.
Yeah, a man could like have an experience with a woman, and he's not going most cases not be like this is all women now. You know what I mean? These are just like these types of women or this group of women that are act like this. You know what I mean? But like characteristics of like women that do this. I think like on the other side of it, it's like you can have a bad experience. Yeah, that too. But you can have a bad experience in dating. A woman can't. And then now it's like, why are all men like this?
Because I think there's something about women that cracks me. And this is many years of experience.
It's the men that you date.
No, women are funny because they will ruin their friends' relationships. Mm-hmm. They will say bad stuff to their friends about guys they don't even know. Guys don't do that. Guys are not terrible track record. Guys are not sitting there talking about. I can't believe you going out with so and so. Mom is so. Wow. But a girl was sitting telling another girl, well, he a man. He will do. You know what I mean? Like what's the relationship before he even gets off the car? And I'm not saying I don't know all men. The men I know in the conversations, I've never heard a guy sit there and just try to destroy women for some miles. They may say stuff like, "Man, I can't believe you're doing it." You get yourself tied down. But they would never say
she has to be an awful woman. I feel like I just straight up because I think I have done that before for a friend who she was awful. It was toxic. You know what I mean? I think that's the only time I feel like a man will probably really step up and something's awful.
I was saying, I'm not talking about the woman. They will say all men. So they'll be talking to their girlfriend who's probably about to get married or something. And they will say, they list all their bad experiences like they got this universal this vast experience. And it's not, and you hear it. You hear when, girl, let me tell you about this is what you're getting into. You don't never met dude before.
It's funny because
if a dude did that, saying, hey,
Or even we talk about
You can't use that word. He meant that. He meant that. But it's funny. I'm laughing because I love ChatGPT. But they can be a little they can be a little on the feminine side too. Because you'll put ChatGPT because you'll put stuff in it and some of the responses come out like, I'll try to ask you million questions like the first question here was, where do men need to grow? What they got to do?
It's kind of like this. I was trying to ask you, well, where do men
So I'm laughing at somebody knocking on that woman where she I'm laughing at somebody knocking on my door. So, what you laughing? I said, I didn't know ChatGPT was a female.
You be better.
Because I'm thinking like it must be female. Because I'm putting, with guys. And the first question came out was like, basically, what's wrong with you?
What did you do?
Yeah. I said, wow. Hey, I must stand for Alberta or somebody. That's I was laughing something like, you did ChatGPT take their side. I'm like, maybe because I put African American male and they said, okay, this is black dude, so he falls in this category. He has to get something. Yeah, he did something. You should do something.
I'm actually now want to go back and say, hey, I'm a white man.
It is not your fault.
It's not your fault, King.
Why are they disobedient?
So it's funny because we were talking about this. So this is a different topic, but it's similar because we talking about because people were talking about this part too. Jaden Isaac, the guy for the NBA.
Jonathan Isaac.
Jaden
Isaac.
Jaden Isaac. So there's a video. Yeah, she just rolled. She almost knocked him over getting out the room. He was doing a live stream, right? Yeah,
the one that got
His wife was in the background, and he was on another rant, I guess, about the NBA. And he's talking about how his like loves God. She's gonna stand behind him. Man, she almost knocked him over, getting up. Yeah, she tried to get up. She was the one, and you couldn't see it at first because she was a shadow. But she literally knocked him over. And first, he's in the middle of saying how much she stand beside him and how much she love him. She got his back and she loved God. He's saying all this stuff. And you see her go in the drawer against the foul, and she just almost steamrolled him leaving. I'm saying, okay. Yeah. And that's different. And he has some other issues.
I mean, but no, that's
but it was. But I was
entitlement to right now and what we are talking about. Because it's like, that's absurd for him to be sitting there like, yeah, man.
You're right there.
My support system.
You can see her in the back. You can see her in the shadow. You didn't see her face. She literally was body. And then you saw her whole face. She wasn't thinking. Because when she got up on him, you could see him. She was thinking. And he must have. She wasn't. Because you stayed in the back, you would have saw her face. But once she got into the camera, then you saw her face in the back. You wouldn't know she was. But once she got next to him, when she bumped into him, you can see everything. So to me, she wasn't staying in the back, nobody could see.
No, well, I think she listened. She heard him and she's like, I need to get out of here. I don't need nobody to see me.
No, but they wouldn't have saw you. If you wouldn't have ran on the camera, they wouldn't have saw you. Nah, you watching that crazy. No, it was too dark. You saw it. It was too dark. Yeah. What you think about
I've seen people in the area like be able to find where somebody at, how tall they really are. Be like, this person's not 7 foot. They're actually 6'7" in the camera.
Had she stayed in the back, you wouldn't have saw her face. Regardless, if somebody's going to stoop that far, they're going to stoop that far. Yeah. But when you rush past the camera, then you saw it, and then she looked right at the camera as she was going by.
That's so funny.
And it wasn't funny. I felt bad for him because he keeps trying to keep the positivity going while she's busting past him. He's in the middle talking about how great she is, and she's busting past him. And he keeps trying to keep the positivity going. So, but I mean, it's just professional sports is a great place to start because how many of those guys? Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
No, better now.
What you mean?
What? He got a hit. He got a head. Good.
Does he? Well, she keep off in the woods.
I didn't know that. At one time, I saw
something to talk like early on before.
Allegedly, she did that.
Kid.
Yeah, that's when they saying that.
You know what it is? It's actually, I think, a point. Again, it matters here because what we're talking about of how sometimes how men have to try to show up in a space versus like where in these cases, like women are showing up a certain way, and then it's even hard to try to highlight some of these things or call them out or like point out that behavior because it's like
Michael B. Jordan, for instance, when he broke up with
Lori Harvey.
yes.
Like,
He you can tell he holding it together. He has the game.
I ain't finished with you yet.
She's out here okay, going from the next person to the next person. Like,
it is definitely it's a double standard, and I think how we are viewed here is like this fight to be equal, but it's this obvious, clear double standard here. It's this fight for traditionalism, but then there's also this idea of like there's no tradition anymore.
traditional modernism.
Yeah, traditional modernism. You need to coin that. That was crazy. Because it's like that's exactly what people are fighting for. This idea of like this traditional modernized
So let's go back. I think
roles and
One thing
dating.
to bring, flowers and all that stuff.
But you're not gonna cook that.
I think
You're going out with your friend.
I think the first mistake people make is we're not equal. And I'm not saying no show. Men and women are not equal. They built different.
We are.
They built different. And that's not man didn't choose to be built different. Whether you believe in God or evolution, whatever.
Once a week, once a month.
No, but I mean,
I'm
we
told
didn't wake up. We didn't wake up in the morning and says, "I want to be built." We are built. We were. So that's the first thing right there. The second thing is we're wired different. And that's obvious. That the way we, a man and woman can look at something and see two what we're talking about now. The woman who thinks, she got it all together, but yet she has all this trauma from her childhood that she's dealing with that she's never addressed with. But she's sitting there talking about you must have trauma. She has
the
a
couch
thing.
is just open,
but-
and it's an air mattress.
But they'll say, when they hear you calling you, they'll all make you think one better than the other. One has to be better than the other. Why is that the case?
I think
Because first of all, I think no matter what you do in life, man, it's very few things that are totally equal. It is. It's very few things. If I take $5 worth of quarters and a $5 bill, they worth the same value. But if I put them on a scale, the quarter's going to weigh more.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So when people say that, you can get two guys who may be equally talented, but one wants it more. So he becomes a better player.
Yeah. Or even the idea of thinking of where equal can be, like you said, two different parts that come together.
So it's the whole. It is not. And I think, but the part of the problem is people get so. First of all, I think you have a problem when you worry about being equal to anybody. So your goal should be the best version of yourself. You should never, because I don't know what's going on behind somebody closed door. So for me to sit and say I want to be equal to my neighbor or somebody, they could be living now behind closed doors. And you don't know people intimately. So that's the first thing. And even in a relationship, it's never 50-50. At one time or other time, somebody's giving more.
Yeah.
So we get this. To me, I think that's what we get messed up because we think everything's supposed to be equal, or like young people think everything is supposed to be fair. It's just
I think it automatically almost puts you in this place of where you chasing what somebody else already has versus you appreciating and looking at the value and the talents that you have. And improving it and strengthening those, like because now you chasing something that is not even necessarily meant to or might not be built for you,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes like that brings on so much stress for people and so much confusion because you're sitting here like you're taking on all these things that are necessarily not even meant for you.
But I think that's one of the distractions that people place out, and I'll just talk about African Americans. I think that's one of the distractions they throw out to us is to have us fight each other. To have us
over everything.
Yeah, or because your trauma is worse than my trauma. Stupid. Like we heard in the video when he said a woman says, okay, she just assumes, even though this guy comes from a mother and her father, he has a 2-parent home, she assumes he has his baggage without even getting to know him, to understand him, ask him questions. And that happens a lot. Or women do this all the time. I'm not saying guys don't, but women, they look at somebody and say, well, I know that type. You don't know. But you hear what I'm saying? Well, I know that type, or so you run into these things I think has been passed on down in society from time to time, equipping to what you were talking about, and then add in social media. I hate to say it, but you add in social media. It's true because you got people get on social media, they're the biggest fraud and pretender.
Yo, you hear me, Duff? You heard what she said recently?
I saw her name, I said.
She is a Disney young Disney person.
I know
she's an adult now.
No, I mean I saw her name come across the thing.
I was saying it for people who may not know and watch it. Like she recently was on a podcast talking to somebody, and they were talking about dating, and she just pretty much flat out was. She went through a divorce, and she was saying how she wanted chaos. She wanted to pretty much date the bad guy versus the good guy, and how like she even knew that it didn't necessarily make sense, but it was the idea of her just kind of going with what she was feeling.
Or it gets her. She's probably fighting an image. That image of the prissy clean person from TV who no faults.
I don't think that is not even just a thing for her image. I ultimately think that's like where we are as society with women and dating.
Yeah, but
they
it's
think
all,
that somebody the idea of safe and boring is and kind of rigid, like those things.
but it comes from a root
aren't
cause.
cool
They
to
want to
them.
do
But it comes from a root cause too. You just, I mean, there's something driving you to make that choice. So that's what I'm saying. In Hilly Duff's case, is probably because she wasn't getting a lot of roles because
See,
she
I
was
was
a diddly person.
I was making it bigger than Hilary Duff. You know, I think it's every woman is doing that now.
Yeah, but you don't make it. We are a product
All
of
these
our
women
environment.
ain't in Duff.
But no, you're not listening to what I'm saying. We are a product of our environment. The way we were born, the way we raised, that impacts, and most people don't have enough wherewithal to say, okay, I got to address this. So what I'm saying is, you get some people who want that because maybe it goes against what mom said, or when you sit down and talk to people, they got other issues that's driving. The choice is still crazy, but they got issues that's driving the choice. They got issues that's driving the choice. Like I like chaos. There's people who like chaos. I remember I was working with a group of girls a couple of years ago, and we were talking about somehow we got on the subject. Yeah, the girl asked me, said, "You give flowers to your wife?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, just on her birthday." I said, "No, there's times I ran to bring flowers on." That was about 10 girls in the group who told me, "I want a flower. I don't want some dude bringing flowers. They want to do the slap box with. I was taken back. Yeah, I don't want somebody." But then I was
nice until you
but I started thinking about it. Yo, you hear a lot of decent guys say that.
Decent guys.
A lot of good guys that say how it's hard. Women don't want the good guy. They would say they say that. They'll take the guy who's dogging them out, who's not doing what he's supposed to do. They'll marry the dude who got, or they'll date the dude with 5 kids, ain't taking care of none of them. And so for whatever reason, people make those decisions, man. And I think, to your point, start off the show is I think enough people don't look at themselves. Like, what baggage am I bringing to a relationship? What issues am I bringing in? There's a reason why I want somebody to keep dogging. I keep picking dudes who dog me out. I know, keep picking dudes who want to come out and eat cereal all day long and play a video game while I go out
I
to
think
work.
it's like a switch sometimes. It's like you hit a certain point. It's like, all right, now I'm ready for the good dude. You know what I mean?
You think so?
I think it's this dude. It's a little bit of that. It's from comedian Tony Baker. I just seen him recently, kind of even talking about this video and these things. And it's just, I don't know, it's just strange. Like, it's one of those things that I feel like have been here throughout time. Like, they equate the idea of, I guess, being boring or safe is kind of weak. And then it's chaos and like just craziness is strength when it's the opposite.
And it's funny you say that because I hear young people saying it. People in high school, they say the same, because this is a phenomenon out here. I'm not gonna say where all these young boys want to act like they from the hood.
That has been here.
No, but now is more so. Now is it's funny because I was
at Summer.
what you're talking about. See, let me finish. What I'm saying is I was talking to somebody who used to go to the school, and they said the same thing. It's been increasing more and more and more. It's getting more and more and more where it was 1 or 2 guys like that. Now it's a whole bunch of guys like that. And some of the guys, they from the suburbs. And even the girls, when I talk to some young ladies, they say the same thing. Like, they don't understand why the guys, like you said, they don't understand why guys are doing it. I don't understand why they're doing it. But they think that's what being a man is. And they do it because it does get some girls. There's some girls. I had a girl tell me, I want to do from Cheltenham. She didn't say dude, she used N-word. I want to do from Cheltenham. Because he saw. That's what she said. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, this guy's going to class getting good grades.
That's soft.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Going to class.
So even at a young
You're not
age,
skipping class.
but even at what you said at a young age, we see it happen at a young age. So I mean, are moms teaching them that?
No, I think it's like probably social media, all that stuff that's out here.
Yeah, good
Stuff they see in real life too. It could be their mom is dating someone that's questionable. You see, they hung up over them.
So let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a situation that you were judged by a female before she even got to know you?
All the time.
All the time. That often?
Yeah. Because it's let me see. I think the idea, because I grew up in the suburbs, I carried myself a certain way. When I had a haircut or a close haircut, it was automatically assumed that I only talked to white women.
Like, somebody said that to you?
Yeah, it was just, I'm actually cool with this girl now.
Because of your hair?
Yeah, not even, it's
I mean,
because it's a
because
combination of
of
things. Yeah, it's like how you dress, how you talk, like how you carry yourself, like, and they just make these assumptions. And it was funny, we went to a mutual friend's wedding and we actually like talked to each other. She felt good enough to tell me there, like, yo, you're a whole different person. Like, I didn't even know.
Drink, she was talking.
Yeah, right. Really, that's what it was.
I
It
trust you
was
then.
like, wow, like, you're not even the type of guy that I thought you were. I just assumed that because I knew you was from the suburbs. I saw you talking to these people and like how you carried yourself at work. Like, I'm supposed to come in here with the I'm not here. Pretend like it's a serious.
You did the same thing?
Oh yeah, you used the way like I said something about the way you talk and different things like that. And then I always ask a follow-up question, what does that look like?
Yeah, like what does that even look like what you're saying?
Yeah.
But then it's I mean, some of the things that I feel like I just mentioned, like how you dress, how you talk, and like even who you talking to.
But you said it.
Like,
how are you supposed to act that way?
And that's actually I guess the funny part about it. And then especially when it's like I'm not supposed to be at work where just I'm going around cracking on chicks all the time, right?
You're supposed to walk around. What up, guys? I'm here. Look at my dog.
Looking good this morning. I like
I mean, see, I've seen it reverse. Like when I was in corporate America, there were certain people who come to corporate America dressed like they came from the club. They would show up, like back then the MGM pants. Yeah, they were walking there, man, with all kinds of blue pants, shiny pants on, and kind of stuff. The Steve Harvey suits, the real good suits and stuff like that, and the big tie. And I'm thinking like, this corporate America, man, this ain't true time to follow. So, but even then, more times than not, when you got to talk to the person, they were different than how they were dressed.
Yes.
They weren't acting, they thought it was a fad and they tried to be a part of the fad. But when you start engaging in conversations, it was different. It's like when I used to do workshops in the prison system, some of the most articulate, intelligent people I've met were in jail. When you see him, you're thinking, man, what this guy in for? Yo, you know what I mean? So you're gonna do something crazy. But then you start having these conversations. So I think society itself is built on that. When you're in school, they put you in if you're smart, you know what they call it, accelerated class. Honors? Yeah, honors. If you're not smart, you're in this class. If you're really not smart, you need help. You're in the extra, So I think we label in society, and I think that's carried over, into personal lives and relationships. I just think it does. Like all poor people act like this. If you're from here, this is how you act. I am a little taken back that in 2026, that there's still females who judge men without, because there's a lot of men who don't dress. But got money.
And you know what? That's actually a great point. Because even just thinking about, I got a fiance now, so that was one of the things I feel like that we talked about and asked about was just the idea is like I dress nice, but I could probably dress better or different in her eyes, And fortunately, she wasn't one of those women where it's like I can't talk to this guy because I don't like his sneakers or I don't like his shoes. But it's women out here today who will legit pass over talking to a great man because they don't like how he dressed, and it blows my mind because it's like I seen this on a Papa Balloon show. It was a dude, he checked all the boxes. They legit just was popping because his shirt.
I don't watch it. I don't watch it, but sometimes I do watch it. It's funny. Now it really fits into what we're talking about.
Yes. And then I think that it all.
I was gonna say there was one the dude the one she rejected because he had a do-rag on. It did kind of fit the outfit.
Yeah.
But then you fast forward all to the end. The dude she said yes to
had a do-rag on.
You can even tell when she first said no to the other dude, he looked around. He's just like,
yeah, all right. Not me. Not my
do-rag. It was funny because to your point, it was a show and the guy was a single dad. This was the last one I watched. He was a single dad. He owned a string of plumbing stores. He had like 4 or 5 franchise of plumbing stores. Man, he had trucks all the. He's actually pretty wealthy. Yeah, he's actually pretty wealthy. But when the lady introduced him, she introduced him as a plumber. Yeah, you said you already know. But she said he was well. She said he was well off. He's taking care of his daughter. She built it up. Most plumbers, but all they heard was plumber. And they associate plumber with dirty, not being dressed. And he wasn't dressed up. He was dressed like business casual. But it was funny because the youngest one was the only one that didn't pop the room. The youngest one, and she was also probably had more to offer. She had 2 masters. She was starting her own business. She was really kicking it, man. And she was knocking out the box. But to your point, when she asked her, well, he's a plumber. I don't know if I could date a plumber. He gonna come home, and she was saying all this stuff, man. And
I wish they would have asked her what she does. I wish they exactly. We don't have to. I'm actually a plumber's assistant.
But it's funny because that's what made me listen to it several times. He brought that up, and again, I'm not hyping Kevin Samuels. I know people, but the difference with him when I say this to people, and somebody didn't agree with they thought about it, he just said stuff and to sensationalize it because he got ratings off of it.
Yes.
But what he was, if you really took your time and listened to what some of the stuff he was saying, it good like this video. It's like the other episode I didn't get a chance to say when the guy's putting the trash out. He was putting the trash out. It's crazy. I remember this thing the other day, and the girl was standing by him, and they stand outside the projects, and all he did was say, "Hey, how you doing? Don't you be trying to talk to me? You live in the projects. You probably driving your mom." She was tearing him up, man. He says, "I just said hello, I'm putting the trash out." So he's like, "Wait a minute, don't you live in the project?" He's like, "Where you work at?" "I work at Wendy's." She said it was proud too, but it's only temporary till I find me a man.
It's always temporary.
He's
been a temporary 10 years.
He was visiting his mom. He was trying to start a software company. And he was driving a Beamer. But she assumed because he put the trash on the project, and then she tried to change it. Well, that's how I scream, man. I don't even remember. That's how I scream. That's how I scream, man. So that's how I figure out. But it was funny how you, in front of the project, when you ignorant to him first. You think you really want to. How much of that for me is this? You could live in the project. How much that you think is impacted by the virus?
Oh my goodness! I think drastically, like it's impacted us so much. Where it's like we've lost the values of like just the morals and the character part of dating and relationships. Everything is so materialistic, like that. I don't even think. Because it's a point in time where it was the idea like a woman could help, like build a man's confidence and like support him in a way where, he can become his best. He could become his best self. You know what I mean? And it took a lot of like just putting your ego to the side and and even for a man, like a man supporting his woman in a way where she's her best self and feeling like, she's able to.
I'm gonna tell you a story that's nobody.
It's crazy. It's just like I don't know where we are anymore.
I'm gonna tell you a story that nobody's heard before. You first heard this story. This girl in high school that I used to like, right? And she was into all of fancy. So fast forward about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I'm doing this workshop, and she works for the organization. I'm doing a workshop. So this was when Michael B. Jordan won. Remember on the red carpet with the girl? So I never said that. He was like, yeah, you did. He was so matter of fact about that.
She was talking about raising up.
No, it was funny because how you see somebody back there, it's kind of like you approach them. We've been doing approach them. So she's trying to hit you with the okie doke. I think I know you from somewhere. And I'm looking at it like, darn well. Let's not even let's not even get into this. This is all into this. I said, yeah, man. She said, she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm my own business. I came here to do this workshop. Somebody come in and do the training, I come and do the training. She said, she was looking at me and everything. I was dressed pretty much like this. So she says, how often do you do? I said, no, this is my business. own my own business. So she says, well, who do you work for? I said, no, I own my own. So I don't know if y'all trick you. No, I said, no, this is my own business. Yes. I said, I own my own business. I said, I'm poor. She said, well, you know, when we were in high school, I think you misunderstood me. Like, what?
You didn't know me.
So I said, well, what do you mean I misunderstood? She said, because I know you like me, but you never really asked me out. You ain't paid, give me the time of day in high school.
You're 64.
You still thinking about it?
But this is funny because people are like that. People start to remember things, but because this goes back to what I'm saying. People no longer want to meet somebody and invest in their dreams. People no longer want to meet somebody and work towards something. They want to meet somebody that they think is already perfect when there's no such thing and you're not perfect. So the minute you do find somebody perfect, it's now an imperfect relationship because you're not perfect. But I think that's the issue that we don't want to say. Like your mom, when I met your mom, I didn't have anything. I say this all the time. I tell a story, man. We're not rich, but everything we have, we work together. She played the role, I played the role. And we talk about that all the time. But there's people don't do that anymore. People don't say, okay, well, let's build something together. People want to come into something that's already there, already built, already existed. And to me, I would question that person's work ethic. And I know somebody's going to say something, but to me, if you don't want to work for something and you want something ready made, what does that say about your work ethic?
Yeah.
What does it say about, and more importantly, what does it say about you?
And I just, I mean, us personally, just how we grew, I like being part of a team. Like I'm being able to contribute in a way that I can, ultimately to our team goals. And I think like that's what a relationship honestly is. It's just like there's times where I got it, there's times where she got it, and it's times where we both able to meet each other here, and it just looks and feels good.
When your company takes off, and it will. When your company takes off, it's like I remember when I got that first big check, and I was saying, look what we did. There's no feeling like that when you're with somebody and you work together to get something and you start to see your goals start to come.
Working on a credit score, that felt good.
You see, all your hard work it starts to come through. Everybody sees it, man, and it's cool. It's nothing like it. And I just, from running this to the point, where I was volunteering my time just to get out there to now I'm getting paid to do it. People are actually trusting me. It's cool to be able to say we did this together. It's cool to say that we built this together.
That's how it was stand up right now.
But yeah, and see, that's a good example because you got to build, you got to grind, but you need a support system.
Yeah,
you don't need the person every time you come on that only talks to you when you do that.
You out there late again.
Or they talk to you when you do that. The only time they say something is when you do something when you're bad. Sure. They never say good job. They can't wait to tell you, or they start with the bad stuff all the time. But I think we've become that society because we think that's cool. We think it's cool to criticize people. We think it's cool to go on TV and
social media made everybody a critic. Like you literally
and talk TV, and talk TV too, because everybody laughs at Mortgage and things like that. But they do.
You be sounding so dumb. People be hard. They saying the smartest. Give me a paragraph. A page of nothing.
But you know what? Because that's the one place I can be anybody I want to be. And I can always come up with an excuse to anybody that criticizes what I write because I don't know. And I think hater. Yeah. There you go. Perfect example. And even they making sense. But I don't know how it's crept into relationships where people try to build relationships around. I think that's why the divorce rate is so high. I think that's why you have so many broken people. Because somebody's giving you everything they have, and then you crush them because you feel like it's not fast enough, or it's not the way it should be, or you just got your own issue, so you constantly criticizing somebody.
Yeah, I think there is there may be a shift that might happen because I do think like there's people who are from the outside looking at this and like this is crazy. Like this, you know what I mean? Like I think there are because I do think there's a younger generation of people coming up that I think they're a little bit more just observant. You know what I mean? And looking at things and being like, I don't want that.
And I think they're more
like they don't drink, they don't do. You know what I mean? They want relationships.
But I also think they're more relational. If I look at the kids that I work with, it's funny because I'll look at some of these high schoolers and they're like almost antisocial. But then I'll look at some of the middle schoolers and they fill in cliques Dude been in my class since first, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they got these tight friendships already, you know. So you see the relationships, the shift is different. So I do, to your point, I think hopefully we're slowly getting back to that where you see, you know, I don't need nobody kind of thing, and I can do this on my own, and you know, I've known someone since first grade that's been my guy. So you see, I think you're starting to see it come back, but it's crazy though. And so let me ask you a question: how much did you think is attributed to selfishness? I'm just selfish. It just got to be my way. Everything got to be my way. Got to be on my terms.
I think we're raised to be like that, where it's just like parents are raising their kids to be selfish, and raising them to have no accountability. Like almost where it's like
You forgot entitlement.
Yeah, but no, I mean, because I feel like I've seen it before and like heard it where parents are like, "Oh well, you can't tell my child that. I'm the only person that can tell my child that." And they're like, the world don't work like that. Where it's like there should be other people, authority figures that should be able to say like, "Hey, that's not right," or like people that go up to the school and their child all the way wrong and they want to argue and curse with the teacher just to go later on discipline their child and tell them they're wrong. But you already just showed your child that like no matter what, like you're not really wrong. You know what I mean? Like you can still be right in some type of way.
Yeah.
You know, because you're a child or because of this or because they make these excuses as to why it's okay. And I think it builds these adults that they just end up being so like, I don't understand why you can't do this for me or why this don't work like
or
that.
when you talking to you talk to some of these young ladies in high school and what their mother done told them.
That part. That's kind of what I was talking
about.
Mama
told. That's what made me think of it.
Yeah.
My mother told me, and I'm thinking to myself like, yo, that is so far from the truth, man.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about, I was having a discussion with a group of people, and we were talking about first dates.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because I thought about the joke you told, about first dates.
Yeah.
And we were talking about first dates. So my question was, what do you think an appropriate first date is? And they said, what do you mean? So if I'm dating you, and if I dated you and I asked you, where would you like to go? You get to choose. What do you think an appropriate first date? I said, but before you answer, flip the script. If you were to ask me, where I go, what would you expect an answer? Mm-hmm. And it was funny because they were like, well, I would have to go here, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, all these places, and when it got to the guy, Texas Roadhouse and Longhorns, because guys eat like that. Says who?
Because guys don't like to eat nice things.
But why would I rather have a steak from Texas Roadhouse versus what justification? Because in other words, what she was saying was our standard is not that high because we're guys.
The same cow. That's crazy.
But now think about what you just said about the standard of not being that high because we're guys. I think it's also a mentality of like just guys almost accept whatever.
That's how it flew by.
Like I do think it's this thing that guys are saying, it's okay, he's a guy, it's okay. And then when a guy finally breaks and is like, I'm tired of this, and then they look at him like he's crazy.
But the thing about it is, when I do my relationship workshops, I say this. The problem with most guys, it seems like we go because we accept stuff early in a relationship. We don't critique early. Most guys will allow bad things or somebody with a bad habit to kind of go at first, and now the person thinks they can do it all the time. We do. And I think people mistake that for weakness, not consideration. Guys are saying, I'm not trying to be, what I mean? I work through this.
Work with you, work through it.
But most people look at that as a weakness. And then they just take it wrong. I didn't say all women.
It's grace. It's all right. That's actually it's grace. And I think like that's something that doesn't necessarily get spoken about. Because yes, we can talk about all the villainous things that happen with men, but I do think men give more grace sometimes when it comes to relationships and like being with a partner.
Yeah, well, I think in certain areas I do.
Yeah, certain areas because it doesn't get because you want to know why? Because we don't even talk about it. We don't sit here like, hey, remember? I forgave you for that. But it's like we kind of just to your point that you said first starting out and dating, we just kind of be like, I can work with that. This is something we can change over time. This might have been a bad thing.
I made this statement in the room and called it up for because I said, I do my thing on relationships. Mm-hmm. I said if you're dating somebody and they never ask to pay, that's a problem. And some women went off. And I said, no, when I was dating my wife early on, she probably knew I was going to let her pay, but she asked. And she said, hey, because every time we go out, you pay for everything.
She actually wanted to take you on the second.
Well, that's it. Every time you pay for everything. It's good. And I let her do it. But so I'm just saying, but the fact that people think there's a problem with that, and I don't understand. It was interesting, man, because some of the females in the workshop didn't think it was.
You want to know why? I think it's because it shows me that this woman is definitely down to be on a team. It ain't all gonna be just about me, like taking care of everything. She's willing to step up and say, "Hey, even if I don't let her do it, it's just the idea of hey, just the thoughtfulness of it." It's even funny because she knew she wasn't gonna pay. It was just idea. It was like,
I seen your mom to say that. But it probably was that. Because if she would have paid, it probably would have been our last date. Let me pay. I ain't home.
The thoughtfulness of it and the mentality to be like, hey,
I think because people
don't contribute to this.
But it's like somebody said this to me, and I was laughing. They said, it's funny because I used to coach PB football, and I won championships because I had these 11 guys, playing like one on both sides of the ball. He said, man, I can't even get 11 kids to agree on anything now. He said, we cracking up. And he said, then he started talking about dating. He said the same thing. He says, man, it's like you think you in tune with somebody, and the simplest stuff you can't even come to an agreement on. It's like, okay, this is the funny story because everybody goes through this. I go through this with your mom. I say, where you want to eat?
I knew you was about to say, yes, where you want to eat? This is all we have is France. You know what I mean? This is like a prehistoric.
Yeah, when you want to know. Then she'll say, wherever you eat is fine. And then I'll name a couple places. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to burger. And there you go. Just tell me at the beginning that you don't feel like eating this, that, one. No, instead of me keep saying, what about this? What about that? What about this? So I used to get frustrated. I don't get frustrated because I know.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's kind of the same thing. Like what you want, but you won't say it. But I got to figure it out. Yes. Or it's like when somebody says, you know what I mean. If I knew what you meant, I wouldn't be asking you the question.
We need to stop.
I wouldn't be asking the question. You don't know what I mean. I don't know. Well, it's funny.
I'm about to do a street interview asking every woman what you want to eat. When they were big partners,
Something else.
Who's paying? Who's paying? They're gonna turn. We go to the low end vegetarian place, but if you're paying, we go to the high end.
Go to the corral.
I don't do go to the corral.
I got listen to this. I got some.
I got 10 gift cards that somebody gave me for $25 each. So we go corral. Well, this is a joke. I got 10 gift cards, man. So we can use these 10 gift cards and we do it. Yes. But it's so funny how
that's responsibility.
It's responsibility. That's all.
So it is hilarious.
I just saw some of people was debating about it's like up and down. Like I don't think it's weird because it's like the idea of the loudest voice. And there's a silent pocket of people, so I don't think it's all bad, but it certainly is bad. It's definitely about going on Groupon data. Groupon,
but they come off the market, man.
Huh? I still can go on Groupon.
I'm saying you are. I'm sure you got work on dating.
Yeah, I don't know how people joke about that. It's like.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it, but I just seriously don't. I listen to so many people work for me, so many stuff to say, and stories, man. Or you hear some of the conversations, I'm in the supermarket and this lady's on the phone talking about her love life, and I'm thinking to myself, and she on the speakerphone. That's part of the problem. She's on the speakerphone, and I'm thinking to myself so everybody in the store knows what's going on with you in the interview, because you telling Sister Angie, you got the phone tucked into her hair thing.
Oh yeah.
So we gotta have this conversation. So I'm like, yo. So it's funny because I'm thinking man, suppose somebody recording him and he sees this. That's what happens. So next time you don't believe this. So this is different.
I can tell you that there's funny
video.
This woman was online complaining about this guy after she went on a first date with him. And wanted to go on the second date. He canceled her because he saw the video that she was talking trash about her. And she was confused as to why he would cancel. This is the world we live in, folks. Like, best of luck to you if you're single, you know?
Yeah, man.
Find you one and lock it down if you can. Like both sides. Stop playing. Work with each other.
I listen to
Seek some help.
It's tough out here, man. See, I still think 85% of people that want to suck. Mom says the number's too high. I just believe it. Just talking to people, just talking to them, the way they drive, just talking to them. Yeah, the way they drive, when you talk about relationships. Well, in Philly, don't stop at stop signs anymore. It'd be 10 yards of parking space, and they double park in the middle of the street. But even when I hear people talking about relationships, it's like you said, it's never about us or we or what I can do better. It's about what's wrong with him, you know, or what he should be doing, what he's not doing. You know, and I'm like, yo, or like you said, because sometimes I sit down and engage you know, and you don't cook, but you expect him to do 45 other things. But you don't even cook, you know. And to my microwave family out there, microwave is not cooking.
Air fryer.
No, some people think microwave is cooking. They think, I'll put this in a microwave.
That's
Nobody
crazy.
wants a microwave dinner every night. So it's just interesting. But also,
I sat there for 2 minutes.
way to do a whole show on standards. We do a whole show on standards, man. I don't know who we can get to come on from the female side. We do a whole show on standards. We get some.
How you gonna bring Angela and Nine?
Yeah, man. You do it, man. Yeah,
Crazy.
What's cool? I got an idea for a show. You can go from home.
All right, that's fine.
I got.
Cause you always sit right next to each other.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that'd be a great show to be on. We just talk about
We definitely should do that.
and everybody's in their own spot, man. I think that'd be
Let's get down and get some counseling afterwards.
definitely made it.
We should. We have these crazy little round table, red table talk. But I'm saying songs.
We can do up to 10 people. 10 couple. I'm not saying you 10, but you can do up to 10 people. Yeah.
That's it.
We gotta do this quickly, man. While fire, so because somebody gonna steal our idea.
This idea is not.
What Steven think this? Somebody needs to picture in the winters out there. Yeah. We done one. Hilarious. Yo, I think we're down to the Bob Harris Black Flame. Yo, it's really pretty.
Restream, as always, said the power inspired of the.
And we're here to remind you to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment.
And we're going not hold.
I love the original.
Like Tommy.